Starting from the beginning, A was reproduction methods. There's two sources for reproduction, that's vegetative and seed. And the three things we do are to alter the existing plant community, site preparation, and then provide reproduction. The second one was timber stand improvement, or TSI. And those are divided into release, salvage, sanitation, thinning, and pruning, the removal of live or dead branches from standing trees. This is only done on certain tree species. It can be done artificially with those long pruning saws, or it can happen naturally from the shade, and they just drop off on their own. And also natural pruning results from light decay, snow, ice, etc. So when there's a big storm, I just call it natural pruning. And the sixth one was weeding and cleaning. All right. Now the last thing is harvest. And we're back to the circle of reproduction. So the goal of the harvest is to encourage a new family of trees, a new generation of forest products. And the three things that it has to do is to fit the characteristics of the species specifically, supply a sufficient volume, and result in prompt restocking. So those are the three goals. It's almost like at the greenhouse where they want to seed to get a new crop of trees, or they want to put seedlings out in the field to get a new crop of trees. But either way, they want to result in prompt restocking. So the types of harvest are really divided into clear cutting, shelter wood, and selection. But you'll also see seed tree, patch cut, and group selection. So we're going to keep it simple for right now, but I wanted you to see this diagram to start with. So again, the objective is to permit the harvesting of the mature timber crop while providing for the regeneration of the forest. It can also be divided into area management or individual tree management. So area management is removing all of the trees in an area, and individual tree management is selecting only marked trees. This will be clear in just a second. So again, the three methods are clear cutting, and there's different variations: seed tree, coppice, block cut, and replant. Selection is when each tree is evaluated and then selected. And shelter wood is a combination between those two, which is done in even age stands, providing shade and natural seating. Let's go through each one of these, and then you'll have a quiz. Clear cutting, the disadvantages is it overexposes sensitive sites. It impairs the natural reproduction by going in and kind of trashing the soil. It leaves a large area of slash, which can create a fire hazard. It increases exposure to erosion. And the last thing is that it looks kind of trashy, and the public don't care for the looks of this. So this is an example of what it looks like. This is pretty common up in Breckenridge right now, or Summit County, where they're removing, but they're called small patch clear cuts now. All right, this is more what you saw in the movie at the beginning of the year, and this kind of clear cutting is not done so much anymore. If it is a larger patch, it's done following the contours of the mountain instead of just huge squares like checkerboards. Okay, so the variations of clear cutting are strips or block. It helps to avoid some of the destruction. And on the prevailing wind side, you can leave timber for protection. The seed tree method is leaving 8 to 10 trees per acre, and that's a minimum. That encourages natural reproduction by wind. That decreases damage from logging, but there's heavy invasion from brush. The third one is clear cutting and plant. So one way to save time is just to not wait for natural reproduction and just clear cut the area and then go back in and plant either seedlings or seeds. And this is done especially with hard to establish species. The fourth one is very inexpensive and very easy. and that is clear cut, and coppice is a sprouting method. So you cut the aspens. It's done best in the winter, and it sprouts back up again. The second one is a shelterwood system. Like I said, it's divided between it, or it's a kind of compromise between selection and clear cut. And that is that you do a cut in 3 stages. The 3 stages are called preparatory cutting, a seed cutting, and then a final removal cutting. This helps to make it a more gradual transition and to establish a crop while you're removing a third of the stand. This is an example. Sorry, it's a little blurry, but that's the first cut. The second cut, you thin the overstory, and the third cut, you remove the overstory and thin the understory, and then you get the spacing that you want. The advantages is that because you're leaving trees, the brush is controlled. It's more natural because the reforestation is done by the standing trees blowing seed. You can also choose the trees that will develop from the choicest seed trees, kind of controlling genetics. It's gradual, and by the third cut, tree growth is improved. Now, I think you can tell that it's kind of obvious that the advantages are reverse of the disadvantages. This takes more time, it costs more money, you do have some damage from to reproduction, and it takes more skill to perform. The third one is selection, and in a perfect world, we would just go in and walk through the forest and take one tree out at a time. Each tree is cut, tree cut is chosen with regard to its position in the stand and its future possibilities. This is used for all aged and even age stands and works with nature to improve the stand. So this is just taking one tree out, marking it, and going in and removing it. The advantages, of course, are more like the in between clear cutting and shelter wood is this provides very good site protection. Windfall is kept to a minimum. Reproduction is easy and certain because you're not removing very many trees. The fire hazard is low. The slash can be scattered. And also you can cut when the market conditions are good. It's kind of like hedging a crop of corn if you were a farmer. But it's the most expensive. It's the hardest to do. And imagine trying to remove trees with all the trees next to it. It's certainly easy to damage the residual trees. So those are the 3 main methods, but of course there's many variations. If you were going in to do a thinning, you would have to learn how to mark trees. So you might remove the overmature and leave the immature. You might remove the poor specimens, or you might just go for proper spacing. In Wisconsin, I had a school forest of 120 acres, and we removed every 3rd row and every 3rd tree, and that was kind of a thinning method used on white pines. You could remove defective trees or leave them as wildlife trees. These trees are still sometimes marked as a W for nest cavities. You would mark to avoid sudden overexposure, and the best way to do this is to make light cuts at frequent intervals. Now, if you go to this slide, and I'm going to hide my face so you can see the whole picture. Mature forests, again, are divided into the silviculture characteristics that are desirable, and that is whether you have an even-aged forest or an all-aged forest. So look again, the clear cut and the shelter one is done for even-aged forests, and a selection method is done for an all-aged forest. And then again, if you see this, you'll see that I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit more. Timber stand improvement for the immature intermediate management of the forest is cleaning, liberation, pruning, improvement cutting, thinning, and salvage, which is just another way to say what I said earlier in the slideshow. In order to manage the forest, you have to learn how to write a forest management plan, and that includes maps of the area, the volume of each species and growth rate, an operating schedule, a list of markets, your logging plan and equipment inventory, a protection program for insects and disease and fire, multiple use programs looking at wildlife, recreation, watershed, and also the cost of the plan. So I'm going to stop here. It gets a little bit more complicated, but I'm going to stop here and ask you to do another assignment.